Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Women's Consortium. I'm the Transformation Diva, and today I am chatting with Dorothy. Dorothy, can you please introduce yourself to anyone that doesn't know you too well?
Well, firstly, hello to everyone. Thank you so much to Women's Consortium, firstly, for having me on this platform. I am truly, truly honored, and I've been looking forward to this the whole week. My name is Dorothy Mulega. I'm a second year candidate attorney, practicing in Johannesburg, passionate about social activism and human rights. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. Short introduction of who I am. No long fancy bio. Just, yeah, Dorothy, the candidate attorney.
That's awesome. What made you decide to go into the field of law?
It's funny that you ask that. So it's a bit of a story. I'll try to keep it very short. My dad always used to say that, like, I talk too much. I should be a lawyer. This was like from 6 years old. He's like, you talk too much. You've always got an answer for everything. You should just be a lawyer. You always want to defend yourself. You should just be a lawyer. And then, you reach that stage trick and you've got to start applying to universities. And then I was like, what I want to study, because let's be honest, half of us really know what we want at that stage. We don't even have a taste of what real life is. And I think lawyer just rang in my head because that's what I've spent my whole life. So I was just like, you know what, the first thing I'm going to put like law. So it took me actually studying the degree, my full 4 years, to really understand what is law and what I'm getting myself into. And once I was done, I was like, I want to know more. I want to move forward with this, and this is what I want to do. And that's when I registered for my 2-year articles of clerkship, which is what I'm currently serving now. And hopefully by next year, Feb, I'll be done and admitted as an actual attorney. So yeah, that's the story of how I got in.
So what does it actually mean to be an attorney? What do you do? What do you look forward to? Why are you so eager about, getting started next year?
Well, for me, I think I am a people's person. I am a people's person. Um, like I said, I've always been passionate about social activism and human rights and always wanting to help people. And I think law provided that platform for me from a different area or different perspective of helping people. I've experienced it from the social activism side, actual protests, actual engagements, communities on the ground, trying to get donations and all of that. And that's all great. But I think to achieve it from a legal perspective for me just proved to be a higher calling and a higher sense of fulfillment, So I think that's why I really enjoy it. They know me at the office. I don't want people getting like touching my matters. I always want to see them to finality, because if I start off a matter, I want to know, was custody granted? I want to know whether or not the woman, and I'm going to say woman on purpose, was granted her temporary maintenance while she's trying to pick herself up and figure out what she's got to do with her life to build herself going forward. So I think for me, I do definitely get sort of personal connection to my matters as much as it is work. And that's why, if you'll notice, the types of laws that I would like to focus on, when I mentioned labor law, I mentioned the land claims, and I mentioned the family law, all of those have some sort of end goal which promotes some sort of human rights or dignity to them, restoring land to the community, family laws, keeping the family together, and labor law, protecting people's livelihoods and their jobs and make sure they're not mistreated. So I think that's why I'm so purposely choosing, the areas I want to progress in. Yeah. They provide me a sense of fulfillment. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really happy that you enjoyed. I know like a lot of people go into, some careers because they're just thinking about like the money and what it could do for them. So it's very powerful that you're looking at it from the perspective of how can I serve? How can I improve the lives of other people? That is very beautiful, Dorothy. And I appreciate that as a woman myself. So can we quickly just talk about, you mentioned a lot of, you're welcome. You mentioned a lot about social activism and all of that. What can you delve a little bit deeper into that?
Okay, so I think I was first introduced to social activism in university. You get to university and there's a whole lot of different organizations that you can join, or political parties, or clubs, drama clubs and all these things. University, you have like 2 classes a day and then like your rest of your day is free. So I'm like, okay, what can I join? What can I do? That's that's going to keep me busy, keep me productive, something that I'll actually enjoy. I tried out drama. It turned out I'm not as great as an actor. And then I was in abbreviation SLSJ, Students for Law and Social Justice. So I joined the organization just to see kind of what it was about. And, they were involved, are still involved in a lot of different kind of projects, from having, the pad drives that were very, very popular back then, going into the communities, or maybe let me explain basically how it worked. It was very multifaceted. But the part where I was involved in is that, we were open to assisting communities in basically any way they wanted, which offered some sort of relief. So whether they were in need of food, and going into communities, and they'll literally just present you with their problem and just say something like, I was told that I was told that my pension money is only an amount of 100,000 rands, but I've been working for 40 plus years. Is this right? What do I do? Who do I go to? Who do I speak to? So people would come with literally any type of issue, any type of problem. And based on that, we would direct to the correct platform, correct office, or some way to sort of assist them and hold their hands and get them in that office, speaking to the right person to say, why is a pension reflecting for 100,000? Can we see the papers? Can we see what was the interest rate? How did it accrue? Who were the pension holders? What are their policies? This doesn't make sense. We need to speak to the ombudsman. All of that, where the people in the communities didn't necessarily have, not that they didn't have access to, but necessarily the knowledge about, so it was literally just providing relief in all areas where we could. It was about doing what we could and always advancing, like never leaving a person in the same situation as we found them. We should be able to, even if it means just making them talk to the right person and pushing them forward in that direction. Yes. So that was the bulk of what we did. Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful. Can we talk about, women's rights and like the rights that women have that they don't really know about?
Wow. So, with that one, I think I can talk for hours.
We've got hours, girl. Don't worry.
I can talk for hours. Okay, great. The rights that women have that they don't necessarily know they have, I think for me is going to be maybe a bit of a controversial one, is the maintenance, especially for the children. I've realized with a lot of women I engage in, one of the one thing most of them never think about or realize is that the father of the children has a duty to support the kids, financially, emotionally, you name it, nurturing just as much as the mother does. I found that in South Africa, as compared to other countries, the maintenance of the kids, or child support as it's casually known, but we don't use that term in SA, isn't as utilized as it should be. I was reading recently, I stand to be corrected, but the stats of homes where children are without their fathers and the fathers are not paying or supporting the kids is somewhere around, I think it was like 35, 37%, I stand to be corrected, where I was reading that. Yes, and the women say, well, he's moved on with his life, he's there doing what he's doing or whatever, and they carry that sort of burden on their own. Meanwhile, the father's there. And I always say to women, like, look, you can't force a father to be your father. You can't force him to be there in his child's life, But at the end of the day, it's a joint responsibility. And just as much as you have the duty to care for your child financially, and yes, women, we do have the duty to also care for our children financially, the father does. And it's important that when he chooses not to, that they women know that there are tools and places in place in order to enforce that responsibility on the father, because you don't opt out of being a parent. The child is the child. So that's one of the ones I hate to see, and always wanting women to know. Yeah, always wanting women to know that that option is there, it is available, for us not to abuse, because we all know the narrative, the popular narrative is that, women just want money from the baby daddy so they can go do their nails or their hair, which, I've heard all of that, because I also find myself in situations where I am representing fathers who have been called to maintenance court to pay maintenance. And you do get women who will say, I want 10,000 Rand a child, and the father is earning 20,000 Rand, and it's not realistic, and we wouldn't, and I always say I wouldn't be a woman if I can't call my counter woman out on that, but without digressing too much, I think it's the maintenance, the courts are not utilized as much as they should be. And sometimes I think people always think that the stress and the financial implications of getting an attorney to make this all happen for me. Legal fees are high. I can't even lie about that. They are not affordable to the average person. That's one thing I can be honest about. But the courts are designed in such a way, especially the maintenance court, that as a woman, you can walk in, obtain the forms, fill them out, get a date for your the father of your child to appear, and for the matter to possibly be mediated. And if not, then the magistrate makes a decision based on financials of both parties and says, all right, what is fair and just and equitable is that the father should contribute X amount based on the amount that the mother is already spending. So I think a lot of women also shy away from not just maintenance court, a lot of different things. When we look at issues of domestic violence, we know that you can go get your protection orders, try get 1, 2, 3 remedies, but it's I think it's the frustration or the lack of knowledge of, oh, I have to go to court, I have to take a day off, or I don't even understand what the documents mean or what the procedure is, I need a lawyer. But yeah, I think now we slowly moving to a time where things are becoming accessible and DIY legally, which is sort of taking out the middleman, which is us attorneys. And look, I don't want us to be extinguished completely, but it is important that people do have access, and we can't say that they don't have access to certain relief because of monetary limitations. So yeah.
It is interesting. What other things besides domestic violence and maintenance that women need to know that they can like stand up for themselves legally?
Marriage. Marriage. I think the next one that comes to my mind is marriage. And I think, with South Africa, it's always very crazy because we've got many different types of marriages. We've got Islamic marriages, Hindu marriages. The most popular ones that we have is the legal marriage as we know it. We have the civil unions as we know it. And we also have the customary marriages, which I think is actually one of the most popular types of marriage in South Africa. And we also have, this one is not a marriage, but it's we also have, it's not a marriage, but it's I was about to say, like, a partnership is a domestic partnership where you're cohabiting or living with your partners. You sort of build this life, or you live as if you're married people, but you're not actually married.
So,
yes, I think we say pattern.
Yeah. Pattern in Afrikaans are going uhlalisana in isiXhosa.
Exactly. So all of these different types of or unions have legal implications. The nice thing about the Marriages Act and the Civil Unions Act is that they are there to really protect the women, because previously, the man had the upper hand, he had the financial upper hand, in our previous society. And when they were done with their wives, they would literally just kick them out the house, expect them to find themselves and fend for their children while they move on with another wife or another woman, which left a lot of our women in destitute. So the acts have been designed to protect the women and let them know, like what their benefits are in their different marital systems. So just to go through each of them briefly, I don't want to bore anyone with theory, but with the legal marriages, you're automatically married into community of property. So this is for legal marriage and a civil union. The difference between the two is that a civil union can be between same-sex couples, whereas a marriage is just strictly a man and a woman, in terms for purposes of the acts. So, but with the same, it's basically the same with the both of them, to say that when you get married, your estates, whatever you had previously, whatever you will acquire going forward, basically everything that you've had before you entered into the marriage, everything that you acquire whilst you're in the marriage forms part of the joint estate. So when it's time, and not when it's time, but if you find yourself in a situation where you're filing for divorce, all the court simply does is take everything you both own, including your pension funds, your insurance policies, I mean
your
everything,
private business,
excluding inheritance. Yes.
Your
Even
private
your businesses. I think yes. I think the only thing it excludes is inheritance. If you have inheritance, and if you have like gifts from someone else, but basically everything. And the court divides it in the middle, gives the other party their 50% share and the other party the 50% share. And that's regardless of who had more of what, who made more. It's got absolutely nothing to do with that. So that's where they introduced a marital system to say, before you get married, choose your marital system. So whether you want to be and stay in community of property, whether you want to be in community of property with accrual, out of community of property with accrual, or out of community of property without accrual. And
what is accrual?
The difference between the two is out of community of property with accrual basically says everything before we got married, what I'm coming in the marriage with, what you coming in the marriage with. If we get a time where we divorce, we split only what we made together is split down the middle.
Okay.
Whereas out of community without accrual means we are excluding our estates completely. What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, irregardless of whether we divorce, regardless of whether the one unfortunately passes away. So it divides the estates completely. For me, the safest option, the one I always say go for, is a prenuptial agreement. A prenuptial agreement or a prenup is very it's very customized, it's very flexible, and that's why I prefer it. Is because you get to sit with your partner and you get to go through everything and decide what suits and works for you, because you might have kids, you might not have kids, you probably have a house that belongs to you but you want to keep it for your mother, or so you basically say, okay, this house that we're buying together, it will be ours. However, the house that I have, I wanted to go and stay with my mom. We can look at having a trust for our children and putting all our other assets in there for them to benefit. So you basically tailor and customize it to what suits the both of you and what you want it to be. And there, I feel like there's an understanding up front, and it's obviously then to the benefit of both parties, since it's decided upon before, So that's the best option. I always say prenup. Your friends post the engagement, they're like, oh, just engaged, getting married. I'm like, start having that conversation, that conversation,
Is it
yeah,
possible to,
so
after you've already like signed a marriage certificate in community of property, to change it at a later stage?
100%, it definitely is. So if you've been married and your default system is in community of property, or you've registered it in any other system and you wish to change it, or you wish to incorporate a prenuptial agreement, the most important thing is, as long as you have that agreement between you and your partner, both on the same page, you register your type of marriage, you register it then with what do you call this? Sorry, the word has left me now. With your notary or whoever, your lawyers as well, whoever holds your contracts or whatever. But then you register it then at Home Affairs as well, to say we are now changing our marital system to this. If both parties are on the same page, it's literally as simple as that. I think Home Affairs has documents. I'm not going to lie, I'm not 100% sure on that, that you can fill in to change a marital system, but you can lodge the papers with your attorneys, definitely. And if you are in community of property, no matter how happy you are, change it. Just get the prenup.
I'm happy, but I want my husband and I to sign an anti-nuptial agreement. Like, from what I read about it, like if I get into debt or I commit fraud, his assets will not be affected and he won't have to pay for my bills. So our family basically won't have to suffer because of that. So I liked that, but we got lazy.
Follow through with it, you see, and it's great, and it protects the family. I like that you said that, actually, because it's not always about possibly divorcing or someone passing away, but also if we're moving to a day and age where we're all about entrepreneurship. I mean, you're working for yourself, and should things not go accordingly, you don't want to be in a situation where the bank is repossessing the house. Whereas when your marital system is divided and it's excluded, the bank cannot come and repossess the house, because the debt is only liable to one of the partners in that relationship. So I like that you said that it definitely does protect the marriage too.
So what else? So we've discussed marriage, we've discussed what you call it, domestic
The
violence
civil
as well
union.
as maintenance. What else do women need to know in order to protect themselves?
Well, I want to quickly then move on to just the other two, which is the
Oh,
customary
yes,
marriages.
please.
That's the traditional one. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
basically marriages that are recognized, marriages that were concluded in terms of traditional and African or customary practices. So we all know the lobola must be paid, and there's so many names. There's South Africa. We have different cultures, so each culture has their own formalities that must be complied with. I think the Xhosa people have Xhosa people, please don't come up after me. Is it the ukutwala?
Utwala, I've heard the term before, but I'm not 100% sure what it means. Isn't that where, like, basically you get forced into marriage?
Well, no, it's not a force, but it's part of the practices that would symbolize a conclusion of a valid marriage in terms of customary law. It's not practiced much widely today, as far as I know, but it was one of the main things that they used to do once the marriage, to say, okay, now this marriage has now been concluded. So I think we recently heard the judgment that was given down in terms of the Lerato case, Lerato and Double HP, where Double HP's family brought an application saying she was not the legal wife because, not all formalities were complied with. And at the time of his death, they weren't even staying together. So she was not the wife, But fortunately for her, the court found that she was the wife and that all practices were complied with. Lobola was paid. There was a consensus to say, they want to conclude a marriage. So in terms of customary marriages, I always say if you and your husband are married in terms of customary marriages, it's very important that you follow through with the traditions. We had a case recently where they charged the husband 15,000 rand for lobola, and they told him, in order for us to give her away as a wife, we need you to pay at least 5,000 rand. He had made his first payment of about 2,000 rand. This was like back then, of about 2,000 rand, and he never followed through with the payments. But the wife went on. She moved in. They had a whole bunch of life. Then they found themselves in a situation where, she comes forth to say, "I'm the wife," and the family says, "No, hold up. We charged him 15,000, and we asked for 5,000 rand to be paid in order for you to be recognized as his wife," and never followed through with the payments, the full payment, as required by our custom. So we have never recognized you as a wife. And as crazy as it sounds, the court granted in favor of the deceased's family, to say that, look, there was an agreement in place. He knew he had to pay 5,000. He agreed to pay the 5,000, but he only paid 2. Therefore, she was never a wife. And this is something like after 15, 20 years of marriage, they've built their whole lives together. They have children. And imagine at that point to be told, you are not a wife, and not to enjoy the full benefits, the benefits of succession, the benefits of division of the estates and maintenance, because you are not a wife. And that's it. She has to now pick herself up from that, And so I always say customary is very tricky because each culture has its own requirements, but in our communities, particularly popular amongst the African communities, once a husband passes away, we all know of a story of a relative where the family comes and says, "Oh, we want to take all his things. You are not the wife." And as a partner, that's your leg to stand on legally, to say, well, in terms of customary law, I am his wife, So to protect yourself as a woman, it's important that whatever's required between the families, most important, because this one is widely practiced, is the lobola payments, that there's an understanding in terms of that, and that the family, your family, gives you away as a wife, to say you are now the wife, you know, in that regard, not just moving in one day and saying, oh, I'm his wife now, you know. Yeah, so you've always got to think ahead when it comes to these things. And this is when it brings me to the domestic partnership. Is we also have a lot of situations, like I said, where partners are just staying together for many, many years, but they never get married. They have children, they even buy houses together and all these things, but they never actually formalize their marriage, you know. And unfortunately, our law does not protect domestic partners. So if your partner passes away, even if you've been with him 20 years, you bought one, you know, you know, when you are a wife, like obviously you guys were living as husband and wife, but never actually got married. But the law does not protect domestic partners at all. You will literally just be able to claim just what you legally own, if I can put it that way. It's always very complicated. But we do have something called a domestic partnership agreement. And the truth is, look, marriage is not for everyone. This is real life. You know, a lot of people are in relationships where, you know, one of the partners will tell you, I'm not ready to get married. I'm not ready to get married. I just don't want to remarry again, or for whatever reason, you know. And you can draw up what they call a domestic partnership agreement, where you literally just say, look, we are domestic partners, we have been cohabiting, we have a house together, we have kids, you know, we have cars. Let's just regulate, you know, the ownership or the division of these assets and liabilities during the course of our relationship. Shall we break up? You know, shall we no longer wish to be together? You know, who moves out of the house, or what then happens? You know, you reach an understanding. And I think that's a very important thing for people to realize, because I know, I personally know a lot of women who are in domestic partnerships. You're just living with your partner for years, but you're not married. And then one day they decide they find another woman that they want to marry, and then you're left on the other hand, like, okay, but that's another one where we can really create awareness, you know.
Okay, good. Like, it's very interesting to talk about, because I'm thinking, like, maybe this is the reason why, you know, so many women demand marriage. like, hey, I've been together with you for 8 years. It's time to get married right now. And like, you know, a lot of people look at them as crazy, but you know, at the end of the day, you also need to protect yourself. So, Dorothy, I really don't want to take
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I don't want to take too much of your time, honestly.
Okay.
So, what is that one thing that you know you want every woman to know right now? Can be inspirational, can be legally, anything at all.
I think one thing I want women to know right now, and you know, I think maybe this is something I can resonate with myself, is that society is, whether we like it or not, it's harsher and it's harder on women than it is on any other gender. It's more critical, and especially on the Black woman, you know. And I think one thing I want women to know is to know that your voice is louder. I always tell myself this: my voice is louder than society's voice. You know, I get intimidated sometimes when I walk into a room, you know, full of attorneys and advocates, and we're about to have a pre-trial conference, and I'm the only woman. I'm the only Black woman as well. And I'm like, oh no, you know, society, these people have a higher standing than me. But I've always got to remind myself, your voice is loud, and it's as loud as you want to be. You have a voice. Use it in whatever situation it is, you know. Society, Chimamanda says it so well when she says it's taught the woman to be so submissive and to keep things in and to be so pretensive about a lot of things, you know, knowing you want to get married, but because your partner doesn't want to, you keep quiet about it. Or, you know, wanting to advance in your career, you know, wanting a higher salary, but thinking, oh no, how do I go and speak about that? You know, so many different situations we find ourselves in. And I always say, speak up, whether it's about regulating your marriages, as we have spoken, and choosing a marital system, whether it's about maintenance and being honest that you do need the support, you do need the help, whether it's domestic violence, and, you know, saying enough is enough. You know, we have a voice, and it's always important to remember that.
I definitely agree with that. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for, you know, sharing all of this information with us. I appreciate it, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate it as well. So once again, thank you for being here.
Mara,
Awesome.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. And yeah, I also wanted to say, if it's okay, to share my email. Anyone who's listening, if you have a question or two, literally, that I can just respond to, not a consultation that you must pay for, no, but you can email me personally, any situation you're in, and you just want to know what are your options or what you can do. I'm glad to email back. My email is dorothymulega16@gmail.com. I don't know if I need to spell that. But yeah,
I'll write it out in the description below.
Thank you. Yeah, feel free to email me. You know, you're curious about certain things, you just want to know what your options are. I'm more than glad to share my thoughts and what I do know on that.
Awesome. I'm sure they'll definitely do that. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.